And can we please request, since we are running a little late on time for this panel, to kind of donate 5 minutes? Welcome, Amit.
And welcome to all the panelists. Now, just a small background before we start the panel, and we've had some wonderful discussions from Mr. Leo Puri, then my ex-boss, Mr. Suraj Keli, and then Mr. Bhatnagar. This is the first panel discussion of the day, and we've got some star speakers out here, star panelists out here, veterans in the business, and just in order to give them also an equal opportunity, I had leaked the question paper, so they all know the questions that I'm going to ask them. Because the other presenters, they knew the topic in advance, so I thought because we are talking about mutual funds, let's start with a disclaimer that the paper is already leaked out, so they are not going to get any surprises. And I didn't want to give you also any surprise there. Now, when we talk about a few things and we are talking about some of the opportunities that might be ahead, let me start with a question about the past, because as I was discussing with somebody just some time back, in last 10 years, and 10 years back, mutual fund industry looked like a very small industry if we look at it in today's context. So I would ask each of the panelists, and let's start with the southernmost part of the country. We start with Mr. Sunil Subramaniam. So what's been the journey of mutual funds, and just in order to throw light on how the future holds the promise. So let's talk briefly about last few years' journey.
Thanks, Amit. I think the 10 years is very apt because I've just, next year will be completing 10 years in the industry, in the mutual fund industry. And to me, what has changed in the last 10 years is, I think this 10 years exactly was a bull and bear cycle in its completion. So somebody who spent 10 years, either as an investor or as a distributor or as a manufacturer, I think today is much wiser. So today you have the what can go well when things go well and what can go wrong. And on top of it, you have the masala of the regulator, who I think has been incredibly supervisory and supportive of the industry. So today I think we are a battle-hardened veteran as an industry. We can take on anything, and I think so as an advisor, I think you are brilliantly positioned today. If you've been in the industry for the last 10 years in any form, some advisors could have been bankers, some could have been mutual fund industry people who have become. So today I think the advice you give to your investor is worth its weight in gold, because you have seen good and bad, and today you can advise him for the next good as well as the next bad. So I think that's I would say, very optimistically, we are today, as somebody mentioned, we are in a sweet spot in multiple asset classes, but thanks to the way we've been as an industry, we are brilliantly positioned today to maximize investors' wealth.
Wonderful, thank you very much, sir. So the idea is, if you learned your lessons well in the last decade, utilize those lessons. With that, let's move on to Mr. Singh, and the same question, sir, I'm repeating. What's your view on the last decade and the way forward?
Yeah, thank you, Amit. The basic change, I'll take it forward from Mr. Subramaniam, what he said. The basic change is in the awareness level of every stakeholder. When I say every stakeholders, first of all, investors. Investors today are much, much aware than what they were in the last decade. Today they know, I mean, it's not easy to just go and make a selling talk and get the business. Today, the investors are so much aware, they have the availability of so many reports, so many research reports. Even good investors, they know much more than sometimes I see some of the AMC people when they go and talk to the investors. Sometimes they feel that the investors are much aware than they themselves are. So that is the paradigm shift which has happened. 10 years ago, when we think about the investors, they were blindly believing in what a distributor was telling them to do. They were doing it. Even the regulatory environment was such that which was in favor of both distributors and as well as AMCs, but not in favor of investors. Today it is absolutely different. Today, investor is on the top level. Everything is in favor of investor. Investor is getting the benefits of the money which he is paying, and that is the time when we are saying that we are in a sweet spot. All the stakeholders are in a very, very sweet spot. Everybody, when regulator has been kind enough, they have given all whatever industry wanted, and even at the distributor level, when if we whatever we say, when we look at the of course, as Mr. Suraj Ghale was saying, the number of distributors are only 3,000, but the successful people who are putting their might into it, they are definitely growing. So the things have changed for the betterment for all the stakeholders in the last 10 years.
Thank you very much, sir. And Mr. Kailash Kulkarni, you were sharing with me one of the opportunities that you spotted while talking to a new batch of joinees within your own organization. Why don't you start with that and yeah?
Sure. I personally believe, like, a good last bencher in a class, because you talked about leaking the paper, and I've always been a last bencher in class. I kind of disagree with what we have talked of. Yes, I'd agree to some extent that, yes, awareness has grown. But honestly, I'll just give you a small story, and that will tell you the real picture in India. I had a friend of mine who had invested 10,000 rupees in 1998 towards the end of 1998, and he got a little bit of growth in terms of the ride in the market in 99, but then saw the entire scam which happened, the flat market, the growth from 2003 to 2008, and so on and so forth. The good part was that residing in Bombay, he had changed 3 residences. He had not updated his records at the RNT. So he had forgotten about the investment. In 2014, when he remembered, I had something like that, he didn't even remember the name of the fund. Interestingly, that 10,000 was today 2.4 lakhs. And that was because he had forgotten about it. But the mistakes that we keep making, as in the investor keeps making, I think the people out here keep telling, हम बताते रहते हैं उनको कि भाई रुक जाओ, equity long term ke liye hai, but we don't listen. The investor does not listen. And those are the mistakes that we have seen over the 10 years being repeatedly made. And this story essentially amplifies that if you have chosen a good fund, you can really multiply the money a lot. And if you're talking about growth, because you're talking of I change, and some of the speakers spoke about new investors, I think it's very easy to get new investors for us. If you are living in Mumbai and you are living in a building and the building has 40 flats, I can assure you that 30 of the 40 flats would not have bought a mutual fund till date at all. The example which I was sharing with Amit was that there were some 16 people who recently joined L&T Financial Services, and when I asked them how many had actually invested in mutual funds in the past or currently, there were just 2 hands up. So there's a huge market out there for us, and I think it is up to us to leverage that market. I don't see prospecting to be a challenge at all. Our concern is that we don't ask those questions, and I think over the last 10 years, we have become very comfortable going to the same customer and asking for more business, rather than going to new customers and getting more business. And I think there is a huge world out there. आप सिर्फ आपके 100 मीटर घर से या ऑफिस के 100 मीटर बाहर जाएंगे तो आपको 100 कस्टमर मिल जाएंगे. That's what I would like to say, and this is one change which has not happened in the 10 years.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So, thanks. Mr. Singh, you talked about some of the changes in regulations. Want to bring that focus back because we keep hearing a lot about the negative changes of regulation, but there have been a lot of positive changes also. And just to put it in perspective, some of the moves from the capital market regulator SEBI of late, and the latest news is of PACL. Some time back it was Sahara where notices were sent out, and now if those kind of schemes are stopped, somewhere the amount of money that they are mobilizing, I believe the order refers to a particular amount in case of PACL, and that amount itself with PACL is more than sum total of the 10 largest equity mutual fund schemes in the country.
Yeah.
That amount is more than the total AUM of many of the AMCs in the country. So if that kind of money can come in, and this also is a regulatory move, so your thoughts on such regulatory moves which are positive for the industry?
No, definitely this is very, very positive. And actually, when the problem today is reaching out to the customers. Why we have to, as an industry, we have to introspect why people are putting money there, why people are putting money in Ponzi schemes, why they are not coming to mutual funds. So when I said that the lot of things have been done by the regulators, but regulators, one thing which they have not been able to do even today, the removal of irritants for entering into mutual funds. That is the biggest threat for all of us. Today, when we talk about 100, we can get 100 clients or 1 lakh clients or 2 lakh clients. Two things, the regulator which has not been done is the irritant. Basic problem is today, the biggest problem is doing the KYC activity itself. In fact, when we were discussing that we are talking about big numbers, where is the capacity? Even if today, can't we do 2 lakh investors in 1 month or 3 lakh investors in 1 month as an industry? But when we look at the capacity of creating 3 lakh KYCs, where is the capacity? Today, whenever an NFO comes or in any of the fund houses, for those 2, 3, 4 days, people struggle, people work for 24 hours and create those KYCs. But that is where we have to get in. Is the industry ready for getting 1 million investors per month? That is something which we have to demand from investors now. Financial parameters, yes, they have taken care of. They have taken care of investors, they have taken care of all stakeholders. But the irritants have to be removed. For that, something is required to be done very, very urgently if we really want to take this industry to that level. And why people are going to Ponzi schemes? Because no formalities, nothing. They go to their home, just get the money. In fact, I'll tell you one example. The other day I was in Kolkata, and one of the Ponzi schemes, when the Sharda was going on, I was surprised to look at one of the certificates which was issued by that one of the Ponzi schemes. What it was saying that it is certified, all in very, very small fonts, that we are constructing a hotel in Odisha, and for which the rooms will be available from year 2017. If you pay, we certify that you have paid 5,000 rupees, and the room rent will be 14,000 in 2008. We promise you to give a room or rent for 2 days. And all this, only the dates and money is in big fonts, and they have collected hundreds of crores of rupees.
Right.
Now that is another level where the awareness is. But what they are doing, they are getting cash and issuing that.
Yeah.
But now, and in the same example, if you have to take 1/20th of that amount in mutual funds, you have to bloody struggle for 3 days to get the documents, and first the documents are not there. So if we really want that money should flow into the productive level, we have to remove irritants. That is the biggest thing we need to do.
Thank you very much, sir. So your views on the opportunities presented by the regulatory changes?
I think that if you take the most recent regulatory change, which was the debt taxation rule, and read the mind of the regulator, right? If you see that, he is saying that tax arbitrage should not be your primary thing to choose your investment vehicle. And if you then read off that, right, typically every investor is going to allocate his money either from a safety paradigm or a fear come greed paradigm, right? So as an industry, clearly the regulator is telling us, leave the safety to the banks and you focus on the greed parameter, which is wealth creation. So by setting the standard at 3 years by which the taxation benefit comes in, he's pushing you towards that long term of 3 years. So the first thing we should take is, even when in equities, right, the day may not be far off when he changes the long-term taxation to 3 years even for equities. So as an industry, you should be prepared to see where the regulator is headed, that this industry is got to play its part only in the long-term wealth creation piece. And hence, if you then look at it from an opportunity perspective, and I'll like to share here a couple of things here from an advisor's perspective, right? Suresh Kelly and others, SIPs have been pushed for a very, very long time. But I just want to share a small story here which will give you the way I'm saying we should kill SIP as a product. Okay? What do I mean by this? I'm saying that from SIPs, we should switch to STPs. Make every customer of yours open a liquid or liquid plus folio and then allocate the money from that into various equity schemes, short term, long term. You can change the SIP thing, but keep your main SIP from the bank account into a liquid or ultra short term. And I'll share a small story. At the height of the bear market, I met Dhiren, Value Research, and he was telling me that he started an STP into a very aggressive mutual fund many years ago for a 10-year STP SIP. And he said he forgot about it. And believe it or not, at the height of the bear cycle, he said that after the SIP got over, he left the money in the ultra short term fund and he made more money from the ultra short term investment than he did from that aggressive equity mutual fund. So if you look at it, if you switch your customers into STP and then do your SIPs, your STPs from the liquid, I think there's a huge opportunity. And you do a back of the envelope calculation. If you get 100 customers with 15-year STPs and you assume a trail of 75 basis and an investment of 25,000 rupees per month from the investor, each advisor can become a crorepati in just 15 years' time. All you need is to get 100 customers, right? 15-year STP, SIP into an ultra short term, switch that to any equity mutual fund, assume a rate of return of only 12% per annum on the mutual fund and assume 7% on the STP, your income at that rate will be 1 crore at the end of 15 years. So the fortune lies in the bottom of the pyramid, and the regulator is also pushing us towards the long term. And I think it's best if we can take advantage of that and refashion our portfolio, not to ignore the retail customer who can give you 20,000-25,000 rupees. Huh?
Fantastic thought, fantastic thought. I'll just go back to the initial point that you mentioned about the tax arbitrage available and the finance minister making changes on that. One of the brilliant IFAs that I personally know of a good friend of mine, he had mentioned, so I just met him within a month of the budget, and he said, now FM has done what he had to do, now it is the job of the FM. What he meant by the first FM was a finance minister and the second FM was a fund manager. Okay. So he said the tax arbitrage has been taken off, now the real job of the fund manager starts. So it wonderfully said, and I really loved that guy's perspective that, now let's focus on the merit of the product rather than looking at the government to give you further more advantages. Kailash, coming back to you on the same point, we talked about regulatory situation. What are the opportunities according to you that the regulatory changes have presented?
I think huge opportunities. First and foremost is that everybody is not going to move to equity. So there will be people who will park some money in debt. Now, if you are getting money for a longer term, it is much better for every distributor because a distributor earns more. You are able to get money out of banking system, and if you have a 3-year horizon, and most people have 3-year horizons, because if you look at it, हम सब लोगों ने company FDs भी बेचे हैं और हम सब लोगों ने company FDs 3 साल के बेचे हैं या 5 साल के बेचे हैं. So if you just convert that money into long term, your customer is still going to benefit because even after 3 years you have indexation benefits. So I feel, and I was just talking to Hemant Rastogi outside and he agreed, I mean he suggested this and I agreed with him. I think in hindsight, जब हम 2017-2018 में जाएंगे, I think we all will say that this 3-year move as a long term was actually a very, very good measure done by the regulator. So I think this is a very good opportunity to move money from banks into either regular bond funds or into 3-year FMPs, because if you are doing it in regular bond funds and you expect that India is going to do well economically, you will see some amount of rate cut in the next 3 years. So you are going to get a capital gains benefit also on that. So clearly it's a very, very positive move. And one more request to all of you sitting here is that if we look ahead and not look as to what they could have done better, I think we will free up about 15-20% of our time And that 15–20% of our time can be utilized to do more sales rather than discuss on what the regulator could have done. I think that's something we all should learn to do.
I think that last point is a wonderful opportunity for all of us. If we can release 15% of our extra time, we can really do a lot. And some of the points that all of the panelists have also mentioned about the low level of penetration, this 15% of time can be really utilized. And while we are on the point of time, Deepali had warned me, and I better get scared of her warning. So we've got another 7 or 10 minutes. So one last question to all, two messages that you would like to pass on to each person present in this room. And let's once again start with you, sir.
Okay, the first message I'd like to pass on to an advisor is that always talk to your customer about his full wallet. Do not restrict yourself only to the mutual fund or you do insurance or deposits. When you talk to him and evaluate, please ask him for his entire money and whether what he's got in real estate, what he's got in savings bank, what, and always talk to him about his full wealth. And the advice that you provide on the money that you do not earn will be worth its weight in gold in building a relationship with the customer. So focus on the full wallet, one. Second aspect, again, which is something which I just said, the biggest benefit of advice is a crying need in the retail and the middle class segment. Your HNIs and super HNIs have got the banks falling all over them, you've got your portfolio managers falling all over them to do everything to them. Getting into that and fighting with them when a bank can give a far wider range of services, I think your retail and middle class, if you provide advice to them using a platform, and which is what I think Next Advisors has got, is I think the huge underserved population, right? So please do not ignore your small customer. I think he's far more profitable if you move him into technology. And today, rural India, B15 was one of the thought processes. You'll be amazed with the speed with which they are adopting technology. I think Vodafone have launched an update system where you don't need internet connection to get updates. So I think adopting technology to reach to a larger mass, do not ignore retail. I think these are the two. Focus on the full wallet, don't ignore retail and middle class customers.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for this thoughts. Mr. Singh, sir?
Yeah, I think I'll take you from what Suraj said in the morning. Actually, all of us, the distributors, the fund houses, we have to have a clear-cut business plan for distributors. Every distributor has to have a business plan, how many new investors to be added in this kitty. That is something which is very, very important. And go beyond that and add the young customers, how many young customers you have, what percentage of your investors are there in your kitty who can take you for the next 15, 20, 30 years. The age profile also has to be kept in mind for the distributors, for their investors. I think that is something if all the distributors keep in mind and they work towards that, that will be a very, very good thing for the long term for them. And the scale of business, creating capacities, everybody has to go to the next level. Whatever anybody is doing, when we have to have a clear plan how to go to the next level of the business, how to create a team, how to create a knowledgeable team, that is much more important because the awareness level at the investor level is very high. How I can talk intelligently with my future investor or the current investor. That is the thing, I think if all of us we do that, the industry can go to the next level. That I feel is very, and when we talk about the penetration into new areas, though B15, it's wonderfully has been explained, B15 and big centers, small centers, but the penetration is available, the capacity to penetrate much higher is available at every center, even in metros. As Kailash said, in the whole building, if there are 40 flats, hardly 5 or 10 would have done it. So the penetration is not to be considered only geographically, but within wherever you are operating, there's much more potential available. Let us work on that and let us exploit that together.
Wonderful. So B15 as well as even in metros, there are enough client opportunities available.
Yes.
Wonderfully said. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Kulkarni, your thoughts.
So I agree with both Sunil and DP, what they have said. I think 2 points just wanted to make. Recently I was in another session like this in front of distributors, and I made a point that, you should build your own brand. I think it's important. People are there, customers are there, but the customers have a choice. They can go to person A, person B, banker A, banker B, any one of them. Why should the person come to you? And I think that is very, very critical. You need to build your brand, and that each one will have to decide what is his strength or her strength. It can't be a uniform thing across all the distributors sitting here. Somebody may decide to specialize that I will only focus on doctors as a segment. Somebody may specialize on a segment which is only IT professionals. Or you could decide what is your core strength. You should have a team and technology. But if you are able to convince the customers why your brand is more superior to the other brand, I think you will get more customers coming to you. The second thing I would just like to tell all IFAs and all distributors of funds is you're in the right profession. It is a fantastic profession to be in. Pat yourself on the back more often. I don't hear people saying that we are doing a good job more often. I think if we continuously motivate ourselves, we can do much better as we go ahead. I think the next 3-4 years are going to be absolutely beautiful for us, and we need to leverage that opportunity.
Wonderful. The last point was very important. At this point, I remember one particular quote by Zig Ziglar. He said, people tell me that motivation doesn't last long. But I tell them, so does, I don't remember the exact words, but he said, motivation doesn't last long, and hygiene also. So that's why you need to take bath daily. So we need to take bath daily. Similarly, we need to keep patting ourselves on the back very regularly. There's no better motivation than self-motivation. We've been doing a wonderful job. I really agree with this particular point that it came out. So you also started in the beginning that in this last decade, people have gone through major ups and downs. Surviving through these ups and downs is a commendable job by itself. People have been through such painful periods and serviced clients. I think that itself requires that all of us right away applaud ourselves. Thank you, sirs. I'll just quickly summarize some of the points that you all have mentioned. And one of the points which was highlighted was last decade has taught us a lot. There have been major ups and downs. Use that knowledge, apply it when you are talking to your customers, apply it when you are advising your customers. That's huge, huge power, and experience cannot be taught overnight. People can be taught theory. Experience, one has to go through. So that's a huge advantage that all of you have. That's point number one. Number two, focus on the entire wallet of the client. Try to see opportunities. If you look at a client as a mutual fund client versus somebody who has a requirement for what you can offer, these two are quite different ways of looking at the business. Look at the entire client as somebody who needs help and position your services, position yourself that way. Almost all of India, huge middle class, Suraj showed in one of those slides that McKinsey Global Institute's report, the largest middle class in the world. Now, the middle class earns on a regular basis. Those who earn on a regular basis have a regular saving. So they have a need for our products. Channelize that regular savings into various financial instruments, including mutual funds. All three panelists spoke about one thing in unison, and because we are we've also got together on behalf of an organization which talks about this particular word, use technology. Technology can really give you a lot of advantages. Number one, reduction in errors. Number two, saving a lot of time. Number three, ability to scale up. Huge advantages, huge opportunities. Today, we are fortunate to have such tools available, readily available rather, I would say, that there offers another opportunity. Young customers, scale and capacity. So Mr. Singh spoke about effective communication with the customers. I think it can't be said in a better terms. All of us, communication is key. How you talk to your customers, what do you tell them, you keep reassuring them, that's huge, huge requirement as far as the customer is concerned. Opportunities are everywhere.